Just doing a quick audio test.
All right. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for waiting a little bit. We just had to wrap up our things. And welcome to the Smith Keynote. It's nice to see everyone around here. I've been walking around the server throughout the last week. There's been a lot of excitement for all the content. And I see a lot of you in awe for how it all works and runs together. So, to help bridge the gap, we put together this keynote to help talk about the making of Smith Summit. So, in the beginning, we want to ask, what even is a Minecraft convention? At the first summit, we didn't really have a clue what we were doing. You can see on the left screen over here, we have our current summit building, and our flags on the left. A convention was just us gathering as a community. We had this idea in Summit 24, and we wanted to put it in motion, and we kind of just got everything going at a crazy breakneck speed. We put a call out for all the organizers to come in together and put our brains together. We worked across 2 to 3 months, and somehow we had our opening day in 2024 with the very first Smith Summit convention. And it went insanely well. Our reception was very widespread, and it was such a success. But the first thing that we all came out thinking was, what's next? If the first summit was, what does a Minecraft convention mean? Our question is now, like, how do we keep it going? Like, what's next for Smith Summit? And so, for that story, it begins the day after the Summit 24 closing ceremony.
Yes. After the last Smith Summit ended, everyone in the team couldn't stop ourselves with ecstatic energy. It was so exciting to have seen one of the biggest life events of my own go by. It was a crazy event, so many connections, so many beautiful memories, and we were just so happy. And immediately the thoughts started streaming. Oh, what do we do next summit? Can we do a summit in 2025 maybe? We should do a new map, bigger map, more booths, more games, more everything. But no. No summit talking, no summit planning. We needed a break. After last summit, we were exhausted, and even though we were full of inspiration, we knew we needed some time off. So we waited. We waited a while, mustered our ideas, things kept flowing. We did do our April Fool's Smith Summit in the Sky 2025 event. But during all this, we were thinking, and waiting until we had actually reached the point of planning. And so, 8 months later, RX, we started the planning of the planning, didn't we?
Yeah, so we realized that in order for Smith Summit 26 to come together, we couldn't just plan Summit. We needed to plan what it meant to build Summit. And so we called this the planning of the planning of the planning. Our first month of meetings, we just sat in a Google Doc with a pen and paper and just wrote down how we were going to self organize. We formed 5 teams that you can see in our credits cave: art, gameplay, coordination, community, and technical. And we just sat and just took a ton of notes about our vision, our team structure, and our timeline. And all of this occurred through Discord, through Google Docs, and we used an app called Excalidraw to do our timelining. So on the left, on the right, on the left side here, you can see a timeline that we put together. Let me just point to it. This was a very aggressive timeline, and I don't know how much of it's still accurate, but we put together some soft phases for us to envision our major development steps. Like, each phase transition represents a big step in getting Summit into reality. What is the success of Summit? So we spent our first couple meetings getting all of this written out and put together so that when we actually start the planning, we have all the foundations to keep it successful. And I'll transition it
Yes.
back to Chris.
And so after the planning of the planning of the planning of the planning had been set up, we started planning, as you would expect. And first of all, we needed to start planning the world. We needed to start planning the art team. So as the art team lead, I started gathering people. We started planning out how you'd interact with the summit. In the back behind me, you can see an early sketch out of the 3 regions here with the different wool and the connections in glass of how you travel between them. The layout of the world was quickly organized very early on. And on the left here, you can see some sticker book planning, and on the right as well. Sticker books were like the last time it had a really cool sticker book, and we knew we wanted to repeat it, but even better this time. So we recruited lots of help from all over the place: friends, builders, resource packers, people attending last summit. A lot of new connections had been made, and the beginnings really set out in motion. Ooh. And with all that, knew we wanted to have a lot of thematics and stuff in the world. We had a lot of ideas in how we would make sure the world felt cohesive and nice and sort of driven by an educational spirit. We knew we wanted all the biomes to have influences of realism. So with all that, we had a lot of time spent in the very early beginnings of Summit working on these things. But not long later, we moved into the next stage, which was the community.
Yeah. So the thing about organizing an event like this is that, you can put hours into like perfecting, optimizing, just really making sure that it be a great gameplay experience and it looks beautiful art-wise and is overall like a really polished project. But the thing is that it won't matter if no one knows that it exists. You have to let people know um, about your project, about the event. And this is something we didn't really consider all that much when it came to Summit 2024. Um, well, this time around, we knew we needed to rectify that, even though we got kind of lucky with attendance in 2024. This time we knew we needed to have a whole team dedicated to community, which is, well, like the name implies, the community team, which I'm the lead of. Um, and yeah, so the stuff that we do, mostly it's just the boring stuff. Like it's a lot of writing, a lot of like announcements, blurbs for the website, for video descriptions, that sort of stuff. Um, Also, reaching out to a lot of people, a lot of the booth vendors, probably a lot of you in the audience here. you had either RX or someone else from the community team or the coordination team reach out to you to get you on Summit. But yeah, other than the writing, we also do some visual stuff every now and then. Like you can see on the left here, this is the design progress or process rather that went into making our new logo. If you remember, the 2024 logo looked a little bit different. So this time around, I cooked up a little concept sheet that uh, Seb, you might know from KubeCon, polished into the new and improved logo. Which, if I were to say myself, I think it looks really good. Really happy with how that turned out. But yeah, other than that, I mean, you might also know our work from the video content we do. Uh, Probably from our more recent stuff like the shorts, which shout out Toasted for cooking those up, and Mallory as well. Or, for example, from our trailer or the Meet the Vendors Q&A. But before all those things, while this planning was happening that we talked about just before, uh, there was a time where we wanted to announce Summit 2026, right? And we need to figure out how to do it. Well, it just so happened that we had an idea in 2024 that we didn't get to realize back then, that we figured was the perfect opportunity for us to announce Summit 26 with. And that is the Smith Direct. Some of you probably have seen it. Maybe some of you haven't. It's on our YouTube channel if you'd like to check it out. To be honest, uh, we wanted it to be sort of a quick thing. We wanted to get it done like effectively fast so we could work on Summit, but it ended up being a bit more than what we bargained for. It did come out a little scuffed in the end, but I think it was still very worth it because it was a very good learning experience. We had to do a lot of coordination with a lot of the people who were submitting the videos. There was, huge editing hurdles. Um, Obviously, the scripting and making the maps for the skits that we did during the direct. It was a pretty involved process. Uh, and and yeah, but it ended up being pretty cool and ended up being pretty important to Summit 2026 in big part because this is when we started, or sorry, we first reached out to Daily Smith Summit News. Um, yeah, this is where we first worked with them on doing an official Smith thing. And you can't understate the importance of that because Lush has joined the community team since and has been a very important part of Summit's development. Not just in community, mind you, all over the board. One of the like for example, one of the areas he helped out with was building on the art team. He was responsible in large part for the light quarry biome, which, speaking of, uh, to talk about building now and how that process sort of looked like, I'll hand over the mic over to Curious.
Yes. Oh, there we go. Yeah. After the Smith Direct, or during the Smith Direct, we knew we needed some parts of the map being finished. And that's the time we really started to put together everything. Up until this point, we had assembled a lot of these building plots, as you can see in the background here. These were gray squares that we would assemble a bunch of different ideas on top of. There were hundreds of these. It goes on for ages off in the distance here. A lot of different ideas, assets, and everything we could use in the different biomes. We had a lot of different people on top of this, adding stuff like the trees in the like autumnal woods. You can see the jacaranda trees down here, right above RX. You can see the flowers from the meadows biome and some stuff for the eucalyptus jungle. Tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of building assets were being churned out at this time. And this is really when Fifi and I got to know each other extra well during the summit project. Fifi and I started planning out all of the different uh, themes and everything we were sort of striving for, making sure that the world embodied. We wanted to make sure the world felt educational, realistic, and inspirational and cool, cohesive, all kinds of different like leading words we had. And this was the system we set out to do this. On the left side, you can see another part of this building flat world we had. There's a spawn, a bunch of like texturing palette ideas, team layouts, and random building stuff as people were just sort of being having fun and being bored. You can also see here behind Jackro an early layout of this is how we want the mountain to look like. This trefoil shaped star design with the different sort of circular top-down map of the different regions. We knew very early on we wanted to have the cold, warm, and floral regions that later got set down into the names we have now, the textured tropics, welded woodlands, and patch plateaus. You can learn a lot about this process of how we develop the regions in the regional booths throughout the world. But yeah, later on, we ended up with some of these finalized build plots, as you can see over here. They had these names of the biomes and all of the assets in them that they would contain, such as the light quarry trees, the cherry biome trees, all of the different things with documentation, text explaining the vibes, the feeling, the layouting, everything about every biome. Over here you can see Fifi and I taking charge of it all, of me with my little builder hat, and Fifi with their iconic pumpkin mask, working on the shell for the pearlescent beach. This was a really long process, probably the thing that took the longest in making sure the summit came together, but it was a beautiful one. We had a lot of people involved and a lot of beautiful inspiration and products, and it was an amazing process, and I'm so happy to have you here all exploring it. But with this, it wasn't just all building and art and resource packs. It was a lot of gameplay implementation too. And that's where Beeps comes in. So I'll hand it off to you.
Thank you, Curious. Yeah, so as Curious said, during this construction phase, while they were building the map, this is when the gameplay team started to really like start working, get things implemented. I wasn't actually the first gameplay lead, but this was the time where I stepped up and became the original or the new team lead. And the original lead left us with this node system that you can see on your left, where it helped us really dial in all of the tasks that we need to do and track our progress. So we use this node system, and on the right side, you can see that there were a lot of nodes, a little too many, so we had to move them at some point. So that's what that is. But yeah, so this is also when a lot of the team members for the gameplay team was getting brought in onto the team. So, for example, as you can see here, Monocode developed the climbing system that you see in the textured tropics, and just a lot of the systems were made, and a big part of the gameplay team was the elevators. It was kind of put together by a lot of people on the gameplay team, and most importantly, I would say Jake. That's when Jake really stepped up to help the team, and I'll let him talk about his involvement in the elevators and more.
Hi. The elevators were not fun to work on. It was a very long and multi-generational pain. But I think they came out pretty cool, and I think they ended up sort of working. I don't know if some of you here may have fallen off of them, but if you have, I'm sorry. We tried our best, and the shulkers are trying their best to keep you elevated as well, but it doesn't work for everybody. But I was originally brought on to do the sticker book because I've done sort of dialogue books before in some of my other projects. And then as time went on, I sort of picked up more and more tasks. So I did stuff like the bird spawner system, which was quite fun to make because it ended up being more of a tool for the build team effectively. So it was designed and developed quite closely with the build tool, with the build team. So that it ended up being very easy for them to sort of place all these little bird spawners around the world. And there's ended up being 22 different types of birds and over 200 bird spawners across the entire map. So there's lots and lots of birds to see and hear all over the place. I also ended up doing balloons as well, which was fairly sort of impromptu. I remember Curious pulling me into a call one day and just saying, like, we want to be able to use bundles, to be able to merge balloons together. And that was difficult to sort of work out in the beginning, but it ended up being really, really cool and quite a bit of I'd say, of a stretch of data pack technology. That balloon item model is one single balloon item model, and it has 92,000 lines of code in it that handles all of the balloons at Summit. It's absolutely insane how it works. It baffles me that it came all together in the end, but I'm very glad it did. And yeah, so there was a lot of stuff that had to be done, and towards the end, we had to pull in a lot of booth vendors as well. And a huge thanks to everybody who came in and helped us out at the end to get all the final finishing touches to make Summit what it truly is. And none of this really would be possible without the coordination team. So I'll pass off to RX to talk about how it was all coordinated.
RX, you're
Can't hear
muted.
you.
My bad. The most important part about Summit are the vendors. So, yeah, we had 70 booths, more or less, with 160 booth vendors that we had to set up and onboard onto the server. This is quite an increase from last Summit, and if last Summit was barely held together with vibes, then this one is needed to be better put together. So, in order to get all these vendors working together and getting all the content to one world, we had to put together a lot of resources for them. So I'll pass it off to Runcows to talk a bit more about what resources we put for the vendors.
Yeah, so as RX said, if last summit was a bit of an organizational mess, we wanted this summit to be better. Last summit, a lot of the resources were built basically right from under the vendors, including the map as well. I remember whenever I went to choose a booth location last summit, half the map was not even built really. So this time, our goal was to try and make it as painless as possible to develop and integrate a booth. So to that end, we had two goals. One was to collect all of the information in one place, and the second was to develop as many systems as we could to help vendors. So on the right here, you can see the handbook. This is a Google Doc that all vendors were sent that was us attempting to collect as much information as possible into one location. It ended up being a bit of a documentation monolith, as RX says in chat, 20,000 words. But it is way better than what we had last summit, which I believe was just a single FAQ document. Yeah, 0 words and some FAQ. So on top of that, a lot of what the handbook was documenting was systems that we built for vendors. Some of those include things like an API for custom items, many of which, I mean, actually, every item you have uses that. The interactions API for every single interaction entity on the server, and then a bunch of other things that we have developed for the vendors. And then once we got all of that collected, we decided, well, actually, not quite all of it collected, but once we got most of it collected, we decided it was time to onboard vendors. So I'll pass it off to RX again for that.
Yeah, so part of as Renkel's mentioned, our world was built, and if yeah, I'll go after. So our world was fully put together, and we put together some uh onboarding tables for our vendors. We had one time every day for about a week to 2 weeks for our art coordinators, Curious and Woosh and Fifi, to help introduce people to our world. The next picture will showcase some of the booth plots. We built a couple extra booth plots, I think around 75 to 80, so that all of our late vendors that came in during the onboarding process could like choose the spot that they wanted, and so forth. And you can see here, like, we would onboard a couple groups every day, and we had a couple breaks. The idea was that you would hop on a call with one of us, about 6 booths to 7 at a time, and go around the world, get a nice introduction to what Summit was, and then find a spot to place your booth. And so this process took about a month, and we were able to get everybody onboarded onto our Discord after that. Yep. So the other part of the resources for the vendors is the timelines. One of the most frustrating parts about the first summit was, when is my stuff due? So we put together a kind of pretty looking timeline here that we stayed mostly true to time here. There's a main period of the booth development period where it begins from onboarding booths all the way to when we need to start testing booths. And we had a couple extensions here and there, but the most important part about this process was getting materials from the vendors early. So as you know, as vendors are working on their stuff and sharing updates of pictures and stuff, we had a partial submission for vendors to be able to submit some of their resources so that we could validate and test. And later on, we had a website where you could go upload your stuff and test whether your commands are working and so forth. So that happened around here, sort of in June to July. We were getting most of our partial submissions. And then towards the latter half of the July, the goal was testing. We need to make sure that all of our content was tested. And all of this was communicated to vendors earlier so that they would be prepared for the rest of their summer, so they know what they need to do for their booth. That was really pivotal for us to make sure that each booth was a success. The other part about onboarding, you can see here, I have an example of some booth slots here. We had these blue rectangles or cubes that the art team put together as they planned the booth locations. And we had our Discord. If you've been on Discord, you can imagine what 70 forum posts is like. And 20 of our team was in every single forum post, and each one has thousands of messages. You can imagine how much communication is required to get all the vendors on the same page. And while we've set up so many resources, prior to this, it just, you keep adding more, people have questions, people need to hop on a call. It becomes a challenge to try to coordinate all of this, but alas, we were able to get everybody on the same page and then ready for pasting, which was a big achievement. So I'd like to pass it off to Lush.
Yes, thank you. So now the community team essentially have been working behind the scenes at this point to get everything else complete. As you can see, whilst the rest of the team's working hard on the back end of Summit, the community team was busy writing announcements and making videos. First full video on Summit was the booth applications video that you have to your left here. This is at the time was the best performing video on the Smith YouTube channel, which allowed so many different creators from all spaces of Minecraft to see what Summit is and actually write a application and apply for a booth. Then after our booth vendors got settled down and started completing their booths, the community team reached out to a couple to host one-on-one interviews, which became the Meet the Vendors video. This served as a informative video talking a little bit about event applications opening, as well as, and the main part of it is a way for the community to meet new booth vendors and see returning faces and building hype for Summit 2026. However, after that was wrapped up, the work for the rest of the teams moved to the next step, being the pasting of the booths and data packs, which I'll hand to Curious now.
Yes. So the next step, as Lush said, was pasting. And it was a big process, a long process. 70 booths, all needing to be placed and integrated into the map. It's a big task. But luckily, it was a lot better this time than last time. Because the last summit, every time someone needed a change or needed something pasted onto the world, we needed to paste it into the sky up above the world to make sure it didn't break all the blocks. Then we needed to move it down manually with like world edit, and including the entities and everything. It was a mess. It was horrible. And every time a small change wanted to come through, we had to redo the whole process. It was horrible. But this time around, with the help of Runcows, the process was made so much easier. Because this time we had a plugin or sort of a system that allowed booth vendors to submit their schematic, and the system would just strip out all the entities and put that in a data pack. So all we needed to do as the builders was just to place it into the world. We would paste it in the sky and move it down manually with world or with Axiom, but it was a much smoother process than last time. After that, of course, we needed to integrate all the booths, put some bushes around them, connect the paths together, make sure the maps that we're placing around the world doesn't like cover their doors, their windows, or anything. It's a long process, and it took a lot of time. But wow, was it a much easier job this time than last time, even with more booths. But that wasn't all, of course. We also needed to review all the resource packs and data packs, and in the background you can see some in development screenshots as we were making sure all the resource packs and things were working. This is from animated Java. But yeah, it was a really interesting process, and it was so beautiful to see all the booth vendors coming in and testing their booths and seeing it all like come into place. Because the booth world, or like the Summit Island, is a kind of boring place without all the booths. It's really the booths that make it all come together. Despite all the pretty trees and fancy paths and like maps and everything, it's really the booths that do it all. So it's really, really cool to see it all come together. But yeah, after that, it was time to step into the realm of performance testing. So I'll hand it off to Icy.
Hello, everyone. I'm Icy, the technical co-lead. I'm in charge of server performance and the developer of our main performance mod, Radon. So if you do experience any performance issues on the server, blame Nexus. Data packs are not known for having great performance, even if the pack is really well optimized. So if you do try and run the Summit map without any performance mods, it uses over 200 milliseconds per tick, which is 4 times higher than what Minecraft wants for stable performance, which is 50 MSBT. So we needed some performance mods to make the Summit map playable. 2 of our performance mods are off the shelf. Those are Lithium and Moonrise. However, our main performance mod, the one I developed, is called Radon, and it's fully custom. Radon works by speeding up specific command features that are very slow. For example, if you have 2,000 entities in your world, then you do @e type equals creeper. Minecraft searches all 2,000 entities, even if there's only 10 creepers in the world. We think this is pretty silly, so we made Radon have a cache so that when you do @e type equals creeper, it just checks those 10 creepers and doesn't check the other 1,990 entities. With all of its optimizations in total, Radon reduces command lag by over 50%. That brings us down to 100 milliseconds per tick. However, we did run into a problem, which is Radon only optimizes commands, and so that's where we wanted to use Moonrise, which I mentioned earlier. However, Moonrise completely overwrites the way Minecraft tracks entities, which bypassed Radon's optimizations entirely. So we had to create a special integration between Radon and Moonrise to make them compatible. Fortunately, it worked out because altogether our performance mod decreased that 200 MSBT down to 30 MSBT, which is over an 85% reduction. So we can see over here on the screen, this is a performance graph with Radon disabled, and this is the performance graph with Radon enabled. So that took us from the map is completely unplayable, nobody's going to be able to do anything, down to, wow, that's pretty good. There was one other performance mod that we developed, though, and Nexus is the developer of that, so I'm going to go ahead and pass over to him.
Yep. Thank you, IC. Yeah, so one thing we knew from Summit 24 was that like the number of entities on the world played a huge factor in server performance. And so for reference, Summit 24 had 10,000 entities, which is like a lot, right? However, Summit 26 has over 20,000 entities. And that creates kind of an issue. If you notice the this purple region here, this networking section, this is just from the entities existing. This is not including like their processing. With animated Java, they do a lot of processing. So we developed a mod here called Summit Static. And you can see that we had 15,000 static entities, leaving only 5,000 as non-static. A static entity doesn't tick. It doesn't send updates to the client. It just kind of exists in the world like a block. And that saved performance super heavily, especially when we have 100 players on one world. On top of that, we also had the ticking mod. If you notice this red bounding box here around the mech booth, that determines what runs when you enter a booth, when you leave a booth, and what happens while you're standing in it. We did this just to save extra command when there's a lot of players. For the world download, it does go to a normal data pack solution, though it's a bit slower. And then our last custom mod that we wrote was Summit Sync. And here you can see our GitHub with like all of our repositories that we're developing during this time. Summit Sync is what's responsible for like copying your inventory between Ash and Birch, right? Or like the leaderboards in the AJ booth and that kind of thing. Yeah. And then after all that work was testing. So you can see here that we had 100 bot players in this world. And that was really useful data to get because on launch, we had 500 players try to connect. And you can see that this is one of our initial bot tests, and server performance is a little suboptimal. These spikes here is like, that one's 1500 milliseconds out of 50. So a little bit worse than vanilla. And as you saw on the slide before, we were able to get this all the way down to 25. And about 50 with 100 players on. Here is like our sharding system. We set things up this way because we're able to bring shards up and down based on player count. And they all pull from the build server. So they all have the same world when they start. And then if we restart them, they reset to this world. So it lets us update the map on the fly pretty easily. And with all that, we get to launch day. So I'll hand it over to community.
Yeah, thank you. So as we got closer to the release of Summit, a week before, we released a final trailer for Summit 26, which we uploaded to a bunch of different social medias. However, one had a different reaction to the others. When we sent the video to r/Minecraft, a full-blown war happened in the comments, and we were very confused. And when we looked into it, it turns out that they're all arguing over what is vanilla Minecraft. But stepping over that, we took some vendors to make content for the post-release of the trailer and Summit, which are being uploaded as the convention continues. There's truly no rest for the wicked. But then it was finally time for the opening ceremony of Smith Summit. This was hosted by me and Jack Crow, and was about 4 hours long. So it was very fun to do, I can definitely say myself. This also ended the 332 days of daily Smith Summit news. But we could have not asked for a better start to Summit from you guys, and are super thankful for you all being here. And I'd also like to give out a special little shout out to Tripler here. They are the stage director. All the lights moving and everything was from them. They're actually up there right now currently. So I'd like to give a big shout out to you as well. Yeah, but I would now like to pass it on to Nexus to talk about the post-launch experience.
Yep, thank you, Lush. So we know that post-launch, especially compared to 24, went off super well. I think we only had one crash in the first 24 hours, compared to Summit 24, where we had probably 10 crashes in the first hour. So a bit better. But of course, there were bugs, right? We had probably 10 boosts that were outright broken, stickers that didn't work, that kind of thing. And no amount of bot testing, or even vendor testing for that matter, can get that down. So from day one, the entire team took up the work of fixing all the bugs across all the booths, and getting the entire experience up to snuff, right? And the team has done a fantastic job. On top of that, the community team has continued to work on shorts, to work on announcements, that kind of thing. Shout out to Toast for all the work that they've been doing this entire time. to Jackro and Lush for doing announcements for the events and all of the management stuff involved with keeping events running smooth. Yeah. Sorry, I'm still out. Yeah, I think I'll hand it off to RX and we can send us out, right?
Yeah, sounds good. So, one more slide. At the start of this keynote, we wanted to explain what Smith Summit was to us. If Summit 24 proved that we could do this, then Summit 26 is to prove that we should do this. And I think that we nailed it as a community. It didn't matter whether this game isn't designed for 500k commands, because we have Nexus and Icy to take care of that, or the semantics of data packing and how far we can push it from the art team and the gameplay using animated Java and all the ambient stuff. For us, we are just a pack of passionate people building a project. And so Summit is a unifying force for us. We want to push the definition of vanilla Minecraft, and we want to rally the vanilla creator community. So I want to thank everybody who contributed, the core team, the vendors, and the audience for joining us. Everyone comes together, and we have Smith Summit where the queue is full for 24 hours, more or less, on day one, and still bleeding into day two. It was incredible to see the excitement out there, and so I want to thank everybody for being a part of the experience with us. It's been an honor, and we still have more Summit to go, another week of events. So thanks everybody for being here. And I also want to shout out, whether you are interested, you're learning about Summit now and learning about data packing or art or animated Java, and if you feel inspired or you want to be involved, then you should hang out with us in the Smith Discord after this event. Don't leave. We like to do a lot of fun things here, and there is a lot of opportunity to get involved in a future Smith Summit, or maybe think about making a booth or an event at a future Smith Summit. We love to expand our community, and there's so many people, both on stage and in the audience, that did not know about us and then got involved from last summit, and now they're part of the team or part of the vendors team. So take that opportunity and say hi to us. So at this point, this is the end of our keynote, but we'd like to open up for questions. Any questions about how we put together this convention or the running? We'll have some team members in chat collecting questions. But thank you for listening to us yap about what we did. Might take me a second to bring the questions up.
Thank you so much for attending today. It's been beautiful to see everyone here. It's such a fun sight to see everyone clapping in the audience.
All right. I got a question here. How many members does each team have? And I see the answer here. We had about 15 in art, 14 in gameplay, 11 coordination, 10 community, 7 technical. I do think some of the specific numbers are kind of variable. We had a lot of people kind of come and go. It definitely was a pretty large effort, but the trick is to trick your vendors into doing work for you. For the boots that ended early, they were swindled into finishing the backlog of stuff that we needed done. So everybody in the audience will know who we stole, and we thank you for being our hostages. But art was definitely the biggest team for sure, especially because the art and the map was being built before we started onboarding, so we needed to get a lot of people in the beginning.
For sure. Yeah, we had a lot of people on our team. It's definitely been a very expansive team because there's just so much to do, so much world to build, so many assets to make, so much planning to do. Been a very fluid team, and we've had a lot of people come in and out. So it's been a very interesting process to see how that's sort of come and gone.
I see another question here. Will any of the API used in Summit be released to the public? There is a lot of APIs here, but I might pass it off to maybe Nexus a little bit and maybe some of the gameplay people.
What was the question? Sorry, I just got back. I used the restroom.
Will any of the APIs used in Summit be released, whether it's like mods or data packs?
The mods need a lot of cleanup, but I think at least the sync mod we're talking about releasing, maybe static. If we can adapt it for survival use for like custom blocks and stuff, save some server performance there. Data pack wise, I know Jake is working on porting the swings to a survival data pack, I think. There's
Yeah, I
been
want to
talks-
do swings
Uh-huh.
and balloons and maybe the birds as well. Birds would be
Yeah.
pretty good.
And then the interaction API, I think we've also talked about spinning out.
Yeah, some of the BSL stuff, especially a lot of what RunCal's worked on, we may put together as a Summit, making of Summit library so that we can reuse it for future summits. What would be perfect is we put out a couple of resources so that people can experiment with their APIs before Summit starts and get to know like how to hook into our stuff.
If I can hijack this a little bit, because this question's been coming up a lot and it's related. Radon is public. You can access it here. There's been a lot of work on it for Summit, and that work has not been published yet. So probably want to wait a week before you actually use it for anything. But this mod's been around for a few years. It's not new. One thing I will note, though, is that we need to change the name because somebody beat us to publishing a mod wrench with that name. So it'll be rebranded to Bellows at some point.
Yep.
How do we do the music? This is actually from the Open NBS crew. They actually have a show later today, so do stick around and show up for that. I've been working with the Open NBS crew since last summit, so we actually already had a system from them for this time. They are super awesome, and I need to work with Benetron a bit more to get some of the resources for that public. But all of that is auto-generated from Noteblock World, and they actually did a pretty big Noteblock Studio Jam where they had, I think, nearly 50 published songs in like a month or something crazy. So shout out to all the composers. You can listen to their work and check out the credits at the globes or in your advancement menu. Any questions about a future summit? It's hard to think about a future summit when you're currently running summit, so that will be deferred. How many nights without sleep did you all have?
Many.
Oh,
Team members can only
Oh,
see a little bit.
Oh,
At
now
least
you've
a
done
couple
it.
for me.
Now you've done it,
Uh,
all of you. Okay,
I made
tell
an
you
effort
what.
to be in bed by 2 a.m.
Yeah.
So I think only 1 or 2 truly sleepless nights. But
Yeah.
I think the week before the summit opened, there were multiple
Yeah.
nights of like 4 hours sleep.
Yeah,
I
I
can
think
tell
the
you.
week before Summit, there was not one night where I got more than 3 hours of sleep.
Yeah, it's not even been the best recently. I can tell you for a fact, today I woke up 3 in the morning in a sweat because of how warm it is. And I look at my phone and Jacko pinged me about 5 minutes before that. And considering that he's a time zone ahead of me by an hour, that is currently the state that half of us are in. So
That's my bad, Lush.
it's worth mentioning though, we don't force anyone to stay up. I want to put that out there. Everyone
It's all for the love of the
What do you
game.
mean?
Yeah.
What do you mean you don't force us?
We
Well, I
really
forced
did
you,
try to make
not the other
yeah.
one.
We tried to make RX sleep and he just didn't for like 2 hours. It's concerning.
Well, I got some sleep. What I will say
Like an
related
hour.
to the summit, there was a lot more preparation for opening day. There was definitely a little panic when we made like 2 mistakes and then our performance was out the window and we were like, what happened to our performance? And then it came back and we are like, oh. We were very well prepared for the most part, other than like some small details like the opening ceremony, which Curious put the day of, I think, or the day before. But it was a lot better of a schedule for us compared to the first summit, I will say.
Do we have a Google Doc, by the way? Is someone filtering into someone?
Yeah, it's the
Yeah,
Yeah,
Keynote
we do.
organization doc.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, of course it
Were
is.
you the ones to ask creatives to join Summit or vice versa? I don't know. what you means here, but I think maybe curious you can talk about like the art team maybe here and like corralling the troops.
I mean, yeah, there's been a lot of people in the team that have sort of come through from last summit. I think I gotta highlight Fifi on top of that list. Fifi was joined sort of midway through last summit's organization, and this time around has really just taken up a huge role in organizing everything. I think Fifi saw like what summit was turning out to be last time around, and just became really inspired. So Fifi's become one of the team leads of the art team and been an amazing person to work with, and it's been really fun to getting to know them. Fifi doesn't speak, and that's why I'm speaking on their behalf. But Fifi, feel free to say hello in chat. But yeah, there's been a lot of people. We've been doing outreach to friends of ours. I've had some of the people from the Wingcraft team I used to work with, helping build the map, for example. There's been people from last summit. There's been booth vendors and all kinds of people. I don't even know where to begin. But I think maybe RX, the question might also link a little bit about how we got the booth vendors and like other media
Yeah.
personalities to join the project.
Yeah, so from first summit, when summit didn't exist and you're like, hey, we're doing this data pack convention, we actually got a good amount of people. I feel like we got like half, maybe like 20, 25 booths, because last time it was I think 50 booths. The other half was me just DMing as many data pack creators and like people that could be interested in having a booth. I just like spam DMs for everybody to be like, hey, like you should have a booth. And that's what filled up the summit last time, a lot of it, and just encouraging people to check it out. Um, this time, because we've done summit and last summit went so well, I did not have to like DM people as much actually, which is pretty cool. People just wanted to try Summit again and do a booth and stuff. And what's awesome about this being like our sophomore convention, our second convention, people can just go look at the content, which is mostly Wooshable's summary video, to figure out like what it meant to make a booth and like how do you make it interactive and stuff. So, um, perhaps it's like how do you find all these creative people, but it's also you kind of get a little inspired seeing Summit. I feel like you want to push forward. A lot of the vendors saw what other vendors were doing and like push themselves to try something new or learn new technique. And I know as well that they're seeing what was created and now they have like even more ideas of what to do. So that is like probably the best part is maybe not like finding creative people, but people becoming creative through Summit, which I think was pretty cool. I did still reach out to a couple people, and we wanted to branch out to other communities. So like I know like the Minecraft Middle Earth community joined us this time as kind of like adjacent community, and we had Bundle Group and a couple and I guess Modern as well. But um, yeah, we had a couple adjacent communities that we reached out to for sure. But yeah, I guess people found us more or less. How was having a large part of your fan base being the same people that would enjoy breaking your server affected your sleep? I would say we were more prepared. Nexus, you can talk a bit more about that.
Yeah, there was definitely some nights of concern. The night before launch, it was definitely a little brutal worrying about server performance, but the team clutched it up actually quite early. I think we had settled in on the server working at about 9 p.m. my time, 10 p.m. my time, which is nice. So I actually got to sleep. But yeah, there was some moments there where sleep was a little tough.
Here's a really interesting one. Has anything on the cutting room floor that you are interested in revisiting in the future? There was so much here, and I think gameplay and art could do a lot here. So maybe like Beep Stray Curious, perhaps.
Oh, it's hard to say. I mean, well, it's hard and so easy to say at the same time. I mean, what's hard is that it stokes up the whole fire, the whole discussion, the whole thing of like, what are we doing next summit? Oh my God, so many ideas. What if we do this? What if we do that? What if we do this? I think the process has been a very evolving thing, similar to how you can learn about in mine and Jones's panel about brainstorming. It's always been a sort of a revolving idea that keeps changing and like the foundation staying the same. So, I mean, it's hard to pick out any specific things because a lot of good ideas we've had have sort of shifted into other ideas and merged with others without purely being scrapped. But maybe Beeps or Jake, do you have any ideas?
I know that originally in the original gameplay plan there was a lot of little mini games that were going to be all over the world. So like there was going to be like a box sort of shuffling mini game near the ferry at the docks, and there was going to be snowball fights in like the snowy gorge and stuff like that, and they ended up getting cut because there's no time. And you could also argue there's a benefit because the focus is meant to be on the booths, so we didn't want snowmen building as well. That was going to be really funny. But you know, the focus is meant to be on the booth, so it's not necessarily a bad thing. But I was fairly excited about a lot of them, but there's just no time.
One thing I could mention that ended up cut that I'm a little I regret a little bit is the gondolas. They were supposed to be individually numbered instead of all just being 26, and we were gonna have rare gondola variants that were just on the line, like
But I
a
did not know about this.
vandalized one or an overgrown one.
That's
But
awesome.
yeah, unfortunately, we ran out of time, couldn't finish that in time.
Also the auroras as well. So we ended
The
up with
Auroras.
the meteor showers in Welded Woodlands, but one of the earlier ideas for it were these auroras. There's a really good screenshot somewhere. I don't know if anyone can find it, but
There's a couple.
Zella should have
Zella,
one.
yeah, Zella was working on them for a bit, and they were really pretty, but it just again ran out of time. It's a shame, but they were really good.
Yeah, we wanted each region to have some sort of sky ambience. We got the sky lanterns at night in the texture tropics and the plain and the patch plateaus. But in the welded woodlands, we were thinking either aurora borealis or shooting stars, or maybe both. We kind of wanted both, but as we said, the
Yeah,
time
yeah.
sort
Go
of
ahead, Zell.
ran out a little bit. And Sila, feel free to show it off. Yeah. Hopefully we'll be able to revisit it next time with some more preparation and stuff. But I think with the shooting stars, it turned out beautiful either way. It's such a nice thing to see more rarely, more sparsely, but it's like, oh, I spotted a shooting star. It's a really fun sight to see.
Next question here. With a large part of information about data packs being fractured in individual and private Discord servers, are you guys proud of the way you've unified the community? I actually wouldn't say necessarily private. I think it would just be hard to discover. Um, but I wouldn't even say Smith is fully the unifying force here, but I do think it could be with a lot of the creators that are here. So, Nexus, since you're the one that started this project in the first place, you maybe want to give a little insight on that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely proud of how much this community has grown. Originally, it was just the conventions, right? Or really the pack merging is where it all started. And slowly over time, we kind of grew it. Jacker actually used to run an old community called the Data Pack Hub, not the modern Data Pack Hub that everyone knows. We had it first. But that Data Pack Hub merged into Smith. And from there, we started to get more into like the community events and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'm very proud of where this community has gotten. And it's really become like a melting pot, right? Like we have people from the new Data Pack Hub, from MCC, from Legitimus now. The Legitacult has taken over. And I'm so glad to have so many more community members from different places in the server. That's quite cool.
Yeah, it's really awesome, like seeing everyone, especially like when we got connected with Nice Name at last summit. It's been such a joy to work with people that maybe haven't been fully in the data pack ecosystem, but kind of like joined in with us and kind of helped us out a bunch and like got more involved and stuff. So that was super cool to see. And I know there's a lot of people in the audience or on Summit itself that did all that. So. Yeah. Another question. I think this one's actually a pretty doozy one. If and when next summit happens, chat, it's not happening in 2027. I will tell you that.
There's no way.
But if and when the next summit happens, from this summit, which part of the entire process do you need to flesh out more? I think there's like every team could list out a laundry list of things that like were definitely like not as smooth. But the one thing I want to mention, and maybe I'll let other team members kind of give a line or two about it, but part of putting together like a convention or a process is like the learning thing. There's not ever a case where you're not learning about how to improve your processes or organization or your management. And there was actually a BlankyCon talk that I had watched early in the process that talked about putting together ModFests. I think BlankyCon's been going on for a while, which is like a modding related convention. But there was a how not to do a ModFest or how not to do BlankyCon, I think, and went through like a couple of details. But it really inspired me to take a close look about how we were organizing to try to make it easier for people to get involved in some ways, and maybe we succeeded or not. So, for example, all of our documentation internally, like the super doc that we showed. Okay, there's no way I'm gonna get back. Oh,
Thunk. Thunk.
ah.
Thunk.
Oh, right there, found it. There we go. Okay, so this super doc right here, like there was like 30 plus meeting notes. No, it's gone. There it is. Okay, there's like 30 plus meeting notes here, and a ton of side things. Like each one of these links goes into another document with like 10 tabs. Um, all of this was public for anybody in our internal channels. Like even our team lead meetings, like all the notes are public. And I don't reckon that anybody in our team really read every single document, unless there's someone out there just like secretly reading all of our stuff. But more or less, we tried to keep every single bit of information really public so someone else could pick up work. If like someone was busy or out of town or something like that, it made handoffs really easy because we could go to the previous meeting that we had and like read up some information on like the different things we talked about. So it's things like this I think will keep the process a bit smoother. Um, Making sure that you have like a decent sized bus factor, which is basically like how many team members getting hit by a bus derails the whole project. And I think this summit, like we actually got to maybe 2 of like, you know, if one of us got hit by a bus, then I think we'd be okay, which is horrifyingly funny. But yeah, it really is just kind of iteration really to make things go smooth. And there's no amount of perfection you're really gonna get. I see a comment here about media. I think team members here can maybe chime in about different things they'd like to see improved.
Someone
I
Let's
talk.
see.
mean,
I
we
can
could,
There we go.
I can
yeah,
read it
we
out
could
if you want.
go ahead, sure.
What was the criteria for applying for a booth? I know some were based on projects, communities, or just advertising themselves. And what was the acceptance rate for vendors? Like, did we have difficulties with that process?
That's a good question. Frankly, I think our acceptance rates was lower than last time, but it's still above 80%. The nature of our community means that we've worked with a lot of the people that are applying. There was definitely like a lot of people I met for the first time, but like there was a lot of returning people from Summit 24, a lot of people that worked on the direct, and other community projects that we do. So I was aware of most people that we were onboarding. In terms of criteria, we were just looking for whether you kind of understood what we were going for. Like, there's some submissions where you're just kind of applying, you don't really know what you're applying for, you don't know like what we're trying to do with Smith Summit. And so I just would start a conversation with you and be like, hey, like this is what we're trying to do. Can you tell me a bit more about yourselves? And if you were receptive and talking back and like sharing more details and being open to the idea of our flexibility, then like that was a good signal for me that you would be pretty readily communicative throughout the process. So the number one signal for me is communication, not necessarily like how great your project is or how long you've been doing it or how, crazy technical it is. It's more about like, do you have something you want to show off, and are you able to communicate so that we're staying up to date in the process? Yeah, I would say it's largely communication here.
Yeah. I think it's an interesting topic a little bit as well. Like last time around, the Smith Summit was kind of purely a data pack convention. Obviously, there was a lot of like resource pack things integrated with the data packs, but this time around, we really wanted to open it up a little bit broader to make sure that the Smith Summit isn't just for data packers. It's for resource packers as well, other like adjacent things, map makers, communities around like technical Minecraft things, all kinds of different things. Like you can see a large breadth of different ideas being shown off at Summit that aren't all data pack oriented. And so like how we got in touch with people this time was, I think, a lot less specifically through the channels of data packs, but more so through the community of friends, right? Like the community of the data packing community, the broader sense of the people in the sort of Minecraft Java creators space without mods, that type of space, right? Isn't that right, RX?
Yeah, I would say, yeah, for sure. It's definitely it's just cool to showcase your stuff in a physical world, frankly. So I love everybody having an opportunity to do that.
Okay, fix the microphone. Hello, everybody, again.
Welcome back, Whoosh. I think there was a previous comment about media. If you wanted to quickly jab about some stuff about media.
Yes, I was talking. I just didn't realize my microphone broke. So I put it in the comment. It was mostly joking, but it was also at the time very stressful to work with because I think it was overall. We've had dozens of deadlines, and about 2 of them I think we've made it on time. The first big deadline I remember being involved in was the booth applications video, booth applications. So that required the video, the announcement. I'll give you guys 10 seconds to think how delayed that was. Like how many like days over it was. Yes, it's 3 weeks, 2 years, many, one more.
The year sounds pretty much right.
Yes, it took about 6 weeks was the number I got. So that was like the first bit. That's getting vendors in was delayed by 6 weeks, and it sort of just kept having a knock-on effect with a couple other like projects being delayed, and then it's gotten to the point where like we were working on Summit the day before, like bug fixing, which is something that ideally wouldn't have happened. That there would have been a like fully complete content freeze and just like content freeze that happened, which didn't really. But yeah, and media is affected by that because media has like show a bunch of stuff, and the problem that we had was incomplete features and also a bunch of like remnants of like pasting builds. There was just a bunch of like plots of trees everywhere, like as we were testing, which just ruined a lot of the shots, and re-recording them took time that we didn't really have. So that was my experience. But overall, it could have been worse, and that's all that matters. But hopefully, this next summer it is a bit better.
Definitely learned a lot. How do we do this without client-side mods? There's a lot that we do without client-side mods, but I'm assuming you're talking about some of the crazy textures and animation. In that case, if someone want to talk about animated Java, as that's probably the most flashy thing.
Yeah. I mean, AJ is actually really simple if like from a technical perspective. You're just teleporting item displays on a loop. Obviously we can do more than that, right? We can like stretch them and rotate them and do all of that. But like each moving part of a model is one entity, generally speaking. And so you kind of just teleport that in a way that makes it look like an animation. So like the hard part of AJ is just converting Blockbench into that. But technically it's actually quite simple. Now if you're talking about like the stuff in like a Serena Studios booth with the custom skybox, or like Sandstone and Stubeat also have similar stuff. That's just shader magic. Even the fact that there's no shading on like the screens here, right, or on the lights, is also shader magic. And it's just looking at a color on an entity, and if it's that color, then it does something. It's kind of a gross simplification of all the other technical effort that goes into it. But
there is a shader panel from Nels next week, or I guess upcoming. So if you're really interested in how the shaders on Smith Summit works, do come to that. It's going to talk about what we did to make shaders compatible, because it was a novel technique that Nels put together for us. So do look out for that.
Yeah, and they also had one last summit as well, which they hosted. So if you want back to back, you can also go to the edited summit video of Nels talking about shaders then.
Yeah. And these are all vanilla core shaders, as it'll work in your single player world.
It's just a resource pack feature, yeah. A very obscure and hardly documented resource pack feature, but a resource pack feature nonetheless. I think something funny a lot of people might have noticed with the shader stuff is that what Nix brought up is that if you look at stuff with a modded shader, if you're able to sort of mess with the resource pack, you can see that everything turns blue. And the reason everything turns blue is because when something is that blue shade, that's when we turn off the shading. And it's hard to say an example exactly, but if you have ever looked at a redstone torch and seen that it has that glowing outline, that's possible because it's a block, but it's not possible for entities. So we use that shader stuff to be able to make it happen for entities as well. But that's why everything turns blue if you use modded shaders, which we don't support.
Yeah.
There's an interesting one here. What got you people into making data packs? I would expand this though. What got you people into making data packs and maps and similar things? Everyone has a story here. I don't know if we can go through
Yeah.
everyone's story, but it's definitely for the love of the game.
Yeah. I personally got into it just from, I don't know if anyone here knows Dragnaws. He did like command block tutorials a long time ago before moving to Bedrock map making. And I got into it from just watching his videos. And like, all the other one command creators and that kind of stuff back in the day.
We go through in
Yeah.
order a little bit here.
Yeah, let's go down the line. Lush, do you wanna?
I'm being too scared to touch them. I've been trying to learn them I'm just changing the slides. I've been trying to learn them a little bit. Monocode's teaching me, but then I look back at Smith and then it's all on fire and they're all like shouting at each other and it's scary. Not actually shouting at each other, but but I promise I'll get started. Maybe next summit I'll know a thing or two more about data packs.
We'll force solution to it for sure.
Oh yeah. I got into before data packs were a thing. I got into if anyone remembers the one command block creations, which were a thing where you just put a very long command into a command block, and then it creates a huge monolith that adds something to the game. Yeah, I got into those back in like 2016, and I actually had my own project that was like that. But that's what got me into it. And when data packs came out, I obviously got I transferred to those.
I've been playing Minecraft a long time, and I've always liked the technical stuff. But I started out making data packs, literally breaking apart vanilla tweaks data packs to debug them for an SMP with friends. And then from there, I just was like fascinated by how they work and wanted to make my own.
It's sort of the same with me as well. Like I run like a regular server with a bunch of friends, and most of them want to play modded, but they also can't be bothered to install mods. So data packs are really appealing in the sense that you could just join a server with a vanilla client. You don't have to do anything as an individual. You just join it, and everything you need is there. But I only started making data packs like 2 years ago, or like 2 or 3 years ago. So I'm a fairly recent thing. I don't remember any of the giant scary command block monoliths, sadly.
I'll see if he has anything to say to me. I can speak on their behalf. But yeah, I came in sort of similar to Jacker, I guess, in the age of the sort of monolith command block things. I don't really do data packs. I do resource packs a lot more. But I remember I was watching Hermitcraft back in the day, and then they did a season of playing Game Mode 4, and that's how I got it. Like, saw, oh, what's this Game Mode 4 thing? So later on, I joined their public server and checked it out, and I fell in love, and I haven't left since. And Game Mode 4 has been doing the sort of data pack thing since way before data pack, since 2014. And I played on their server for a while and then got immersed in the whole data pack world. And then I got interested in the resource packs and I joined the team and I made maps. And here I am. It's been a long story. Yeah, I'll hand it off to Beeps.
If he has nothing to say.
Not that I can see.
Okay, I'll go then. Yeah, I also started with the one command block stuff, but actually the first time I was inspired was when I watched a log.zip video and he was showcasing mob powers by I can't quite remember, but he showcased mob powers. I don't even think that one was a one command creation. I think it was a structure, paste a structure in. But it was also around the time that all the one command block stuff was happening. So I got inspired. I recreated it myself. So I made 3 versions of that mob powers in one command. And then that's how I really got started. I joined Game Mode 4, like Curious mentioned. Also found them through Hermitcraft, and the rest is history.
Yeah, so my first inspiration was actually from Seth Bling. I still remember his like prototype one command thing, which would literally just summon a mound of command blocks, which summoned a mound of stone. It didn't do anything else, but it was like kind of like the first stepping stone to get into one command stuff. And of course, I did a few of those, but I very quickly started working on some significantly more complicated things, which just wouldn't fit. Like the 1.10 version of mechanization, for example, is it's a structure block because there were too many command blocks to do a one command. But even back in that time, I was still getting into optimization because I recognized that running all these command blocks was really laggy. So I figured out, hey, I can just like disable this stack of command blocks that's not being used if I do some weird test for stuff. Shout out to the test for command. So yeah, I've been at this for a long time.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead and cap us off. I got into command blocks probably started making my own around 1.8, 1.9. I was inspired by Game Mode 4 one block creations, and I think mostly Seth Bling. But what really got me making my own was actually the 1.9 PvP update. There was a command block server in the snapshots called MC Pwn, and I loved how you could just put together a minigame server on snapshots. Um, and that's where I started the Shulkerbox project. Or I didn't start, I guess I joined the Shulkerbox project, a year or two after that. So started making data packs for that. But that's what got me into programming and as a career in software engineering, which is pretty cool. Yeah, let me grab the last question. There's one last question here before last question. Someone is talking to the returning staff. I think a lot of media from Smith 24 has become a bit more lost or considered lost media per se. How is the focus can be changed to avoid that come 2026? I actually disagree with this a little bit, although we definitely improved with what we're recording these days. Lucia's video on 2024 is probably one of the best, but with the opening day broadcast that Lucia and Jacker put together, it definitely has a lot of content. I don't know if Lucia, Jacker, or you want to add anything to that? Curious, maybe.
I could say a couple words. I think, like, I agree with you a bit, RX, that maybe I wouldn't fully agree on the sort of negative side of it. I think there's a charm to the summits being sort of the events themselves and not like a whole YouTube series, right? Like the experience of Summit is going to Summit. And of course it's nice to document that and having that readily accessible in the future. But it really is the magic of coming together here that I think powers Summit being a cool thing. Because if it was just a YouTube event, it wouldn't be nearly as cool as coming to the real world here and experiencing it and meeting lots of people and talking to everyone. I think that's what makes it all beautiful. But Jackro and Lush, do you have anything to say?
I
I
mean,
think, yeah, I think you said what I wanted to add to that. It's like with concerts. Like, I mean, people record like concerts often, but you can't really beat like going to a concert physically and being there. It's a very different experience than just watching it.
yeah.
Definitely agree. I will mention the Summit 24 map is available map download. And I actually do want to work with Nexus to get the old website back up with some of the like old pictures so that we have it on the website. But speaking of map download, I think our final question, what's the focus of the team now? We still have one more week of Summit, and for everyone who is still hanging out with us for a couple hours, we have a really cool special event happening in 2.5 hours. So that will be something you've never seen before, and it's going to be really, really cool. So come tune back for that. but the world will be released to the public at the very end.
Oh, probably
And
after the
Nexus,
end. Not the
well,
day of
not
end.
right after. Yeah. We might take a break. It'll be at least a month later, probably. And then Nexus, is there a chance for Summit to be 1 week more, or maybe just a little bit longer?
Hmm. You know, I think we might be able to swing that. Yeah, we'll need to talk to the lovely people at Modarinth.
We
See if we can make
got a
that
call of
happen.
players for that.
But yeah, I think we might be able to do one more week of Summit, but there won't be any events because I'll be in Japan that whole week, so I definitely won't be here. So
We'll see. We'll see. We'll have to see.
No
No promises,
promises.
no promises. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, no
yeah, yeah.
problem. But that is all for us, folks, for the keynote. Thanks everybody for joining us. I know this was a pretty long presentation and we started a little late. But we just wanted to share the journey it was because it was such a tale for us to kind of walk through ourselves when we look back and think about everything that we did. So thanks for letting us share with you all. We have 1 week of Summit. As I said, there's Figurama, a live show happening in a couple hours, so stick around for that. We've also been working really hard for capacity increases and so forth, so and getting more stabilization. So there's been a lot of progress related to that. We still have 1 week of events. If you check out the website or the in-game Discord events, the Discord events and the calendar, all the events are fully updated there. And you can also add it to your Google Calendar if you'd like to get an iCal or something like that. But other than that, that's all for us, folks. Thanks so much. Have to play ourselves out. Thanks, everyone.